Revenge films.
My house is located on the corner of a T-junction, and just in front of it is just an extraordinary traffic light. Everything's fine when it's anyone except for that particular person, and if the light's green, but if the conditions are somehow just right in the most wrong way imaginable, there's a goddamn idiot who, instead of waiting for the light to turn green to turn left, shortcuts on our own lawn and onto the other road. Of course, that land is private property, and it belongs to my family. So when we notice them doing it, we shout at them not to, but it's completely futile, since they speed away so quickly. The land is fairly large, enough so that my wife and I can park each of our cars there with ease. I know what you're thinking. Why not build a wall to prevent this prick from doing that ever again? Well, honestly, I agree with you, and tried convincing my wife that we should do it. There were only two problems: cost and convenience. Building a wall would cost a lot of money, and we don't have that much stowed away. And, more importantly, it would also be a huge inconvenience to us because our car simply wouldn't have the space to get out of the driveway. Anyone sensible would be downright furious with stupid people like this driving on our private property, maybe destroying its nice condition and environment in the process, and never apologizing for inconveniencing us. But nowadays, I can't complain anymore. You see, my wife and I have twin sons, and their great-grandfather was so kind as to build a kind of haven for them, with a handmade swing set and slide, a small inflatable pool, a small soccer field with goals. I wish my childhood lawn was as good as mine now. And you know how kids are. They let their imagination run wild. And they want to run around outside all day until they're happy and panting down on the living room floor. However, because of those stupid nutcases, my own children can't play in their own lawn without their parents fearing for their very lives. Any sensible father would be scared shitless if they thought about the scenario where their son suddenly ran in front of a moving car. It wrenched my guts to do this to them, but I often told them that they couldn't play outside because it was too dangerous. This just had to stop. So last summer I consulted an old friend of mine about the issue, and he suggested, we have some koi fish at home. Why not build a nice pond right where the empty space is and keep some kind of koi fish of your own? You have sons, don't you? And they're 6 years old now? At that age, I think they're old enough to know that they shouldn't try to catch them for supper. But I do think they'd have fun watching them do their thing in that pond. Giving them food. It was pretty fun, you know? It's actually a pretty good idea. My sons love fish too. It's so funny when the fish eat food from people's hands. They're insatiable, and they look so cute when they eat. Thanks to my friend's suggestion, we decided to build a koi fish pond, and build it we did. Furthermore, I managed to get some koi fish from an acquaintance of mine, and the two boys went absolutely insane when they heard they were going to get some pet fish. And finally, with a pond built right where they could cut through, those chowderheads would obviously see it and think twice before cutting through it too. It was a perfect idea. And lo and behold, those stupid people disappeared for good. The boys are obsessed with the fish, giving them food, watching what they're doing, giving every fish a name, since they all had different colors and patterns on their scales. In a nutshell, the boys loved every single one of their new pet fish. What we didn't think about was winter. As the days grew colder that year, the pond eventually froze, and the snow made it darn near impossible to realize that there was actually a pond right underneath. We'd placed rather large rocks around the pond, both for protection and for a kind of warning to those idiots. But it being a pretty snowy region where we live, the snow can pile up enough so that those rocks are completely covered up. When that happens, even I sometimes forget we have a pond to begin with, let alone other folks. But all things, the number of shortcut incidents we had decreased so much last year, and that was all because of the pond. Perhaps they had gotten our message, because over the course of spring and summer and fall, no one ever passed through our lawn, and since it wasn't exactly easy to get rid of one, I hope they'd assume the pond was still there even during the winter. Just to be safe, we put up a sign that said, "Pond here," on our lawn. But even that got completely covered by snow, and no one could even tell what it said. And you know how kids are. Once they see a lot of snow outside, they start squirming.
I want to go play outside.
I want to go play in the snow.
But there was the pond to consider, and the tiny probability that someone would be stupid enough to attempt cutting through massive amounts of snow and the very same pond. With so much effort, I told them, "It's too dangerous outside, kids. But if you want to play in the snow, we can go to the park over by your kindergarten. How about we all get in our snow clothes and get over there and have a big snowball fight?" They never played outside in their lawn again during the winter. The snow made everything so goddamn complicated. So I got to talking to my wife again. Even if it isn't about our children, it's still pretty dangerous. I think we should build that wall, honey. Or a fence, whichever you prefer.
This time, I think we should too.
And just as we were thinking about getting it done, it happened. One evening, we were all inside the house watching TV together, as a family, as we always do, every evening until our boys go to bed. Suddenly, without any warning, there was a sudden crash coming from the yard. My wife and I rushed out to see what had happened, and lo and behold, what the hell was at the bottom of the pond was a goddamn car. Someone really was stupid enough to come plowing through the snow, shortcutting the traffic light, and oh no, get themselves stuck in a ditch. My wife and I immediately called the police. A small crowd gathered, and slight pandemonium ensued, until a young girl of about 20 years old was brought out of the car. Drenched to the bone and shivering dangerously in the cold winter air. An ambulance was there to take her away, but she didn't climb into the ambulance without making it brutally clear that she thought it was our fault she'd fallen into our pond and wound up a wet and trembling mess.
"You stupid people laid a trap for me, and now look what you've done! My car is ruined, went beyond all possible repair. I hold you responsible. I'll make you pay for this, mark my frickin' words."
It's not a trap, miss. You can't see it because of the snow, but we even have a sign that clearly states there's a pond right here. In any case, this is my land, and I don't believe you have the right to say such nonsense when it's you who tried to illegally cut through private property just to make things easier for you.
Shut up! Who the hell even built a house on this stupid corner here? I say whoever does it is stupider than horsefly. And you go even so far to build a death trap for innocent drivers like me. How freaking dare you?
Oh, come on now. Let me remind you that you decided to crash into our pond yourself. A part of me was furious at the young lady who'd actually done the unthinkable. But another part of me was in awe of the raw brainlessness and of how selfish she was accusing completely innocent parents of 2 children of building a house and a pond here on this corner with malice aforethought. She was clinically insane. I was sure this was a point. Anyway, the ambulance then took her away that evening, and a couple of days later, her submerged car was hauled away as well. Fortunately, we'd moved the koi out of the pond and into another place for the winter with the pond freezing and all, so there was literally 0 casualties in this particular accident. But because the car had fallen into the pit so cleanly, many parts of the interior had become exposed to water, which worsened their condition after getting damaged from the impact of the fall. As a result, there was kind of debris and sewage to take care of before the koi could be put back in the pond the following spring. And the young lady, boy, even after being taken away in an ambulance, she kept on screaming to the doctors on board to pay her compensation all the way to the end. I assumed that after she got mild treatment for some small injuries, she'd storm back here with lawyers and even court judges to condemn us all to a life of eternal debt. I was frankly a bit blah for a couple of days because of the impending shit show. But to my surprise, when she did stop by, she'd brought her husband with her, which meant that she was quite a bit older than she looked. "I'm terribly sorry about what an inconvenience my wife has caused. I do hope you'll forgive us." He was apologetic to the point of being too apologetic. I thought he would be the same as his wife, being the toxic brat that she is, and literally slam our front door open and demand us the compensation they deserved. But no, he was very kind, a decent person who seemed to have common sense. People really are full of surprises. Or so I thought. I discovered the truth behind his apologeticness soon afterwards. You see, this land is mine, fair and square. but technically it belongs to my granddad, the boy's great-grandfather. And not only does he own this piece of land, he also owns custody of multiple pieces of land throughout the city. The lady's husband works for a company whose headquarters are built on such land owned by my granddad, and he struck a deal with the president of the company, making the rent fees cheaper. Furthermore, being the kind of person that he is, Granddad would allow exemptions for months when things weren't going so well. So it was literally and figuratively the company's foundation. That's why the woman's husband still finds himself employed. That's why he feels eternally indebted to Dad for inadvertently helping him out too. The police told the husband everything about what had happened and apparently came rushing our way in a cold sweat after discovering the land belonged to the same man who was in charge of where his workplace stood. By the way, this isn't quite difficult to know exactly who we are. You see, our family name, Collymore, is a pretty rare one. And the only two houses that belong to such a family are mine and Granddad. By the way, Mom's his daughter and took the last name of Dad when she married him. So by her own choice, she had no legal ties to the name Collymore. And that's how he quickly pieced everything together. Just in case, he contacted his own father, the president of his company, about what had happened, and he was furious.
You stupid idiot! What the hell are you doing being Mr. Lazybody here and telling me, get over there right now and make things right? I'm gonna apologize to Mr. Collymore myself.
I'm paraphrasing, because apparently the insults and the cursing were, impressive. At this point, I assumed the husband's father was talking to Granddad as we spoke, maybe actually on his knees begging for his forgiveness. Granddad is too kind. Though the president will be invited for a session of cards with him, let alone give him forgiveness. The woman, though, the stubborn little witch she was, mumbling bullshit to herself as she bowed and apologized.
Oh, why the hell do I have to apologize for something in which I was clearly the victim? I mean, that could have been snapped in half like a toothpick.
To which her husband just replied,
Shut up! Just shut the freak up. You brought this whole mess on yourself, damn it! You think you're in a position to complain about this when you yourself slammed into private property and nearly destroyed it? You want Dad's company, my goddamn job gone because something stupid you did, huh?
True. Granddad was already pretty old, and he told me how he managed to own several important pieces of land in the city. But who would have thought that the fact he would have a connection to this needlessly perpetrated accident? Apparently, the husband made that connection instantaneously, and actually placed a hand on his wife's head, forcing it down, while he himself bowed an apology even lower. My wife was the perpetrator, and we're ready to pay the price of her careless actions. Of course, we will pay for the cost to repair the pond, and we must also offer compensation for the damage we caused you. Please, I beg you, could we please make this whole situation between ourselves negotiated and resolved peacefully? He was very persistent, and frankly, I felt really sorry for the poor dude. A decent guy married to a careless drunk. I decided to accept his apology, and his wishes to keep this matter private. I understand, I forgive you, sir, but I don't forgive your wife just yet. I think you'd agree with me if I said she doesn't look so apologetic right about now. That makes me concerned for the future, because I have the nagging voice at the back of my head telling me she's going to do it again. She will not do this again, I assure you. We're moving away from this neighborhood within the week.
Huh? And where do you think we're gonna live, damn it?
Looks like no matter how hard I try, I can never always keep an eye on you. So we're moving in with my mom and dad so they can keep their eye on you. I'm gonna pull strings and take so many measures to make sure you're never gonna do something stupid again.
The hell? You're telling me we're moving in with your dumb parents? You've got to be kidding me.
And we all have you to thank for this splendid opportunity to spend some quality family time together. The four of us, and I warn you, a single step out of line and you're in the hands of the police, you hear? If you're gonna go on complaining, get the hell out of my sight. And make sure you take those signed divorce documents with you when you slam the door shut. She finally became reasonable once she heard him say those brave words, and she ceased arguing with him over the matter. A short while afterward, I found out that the couple really did move in with the husband's parents. Well, anyone can assume she could have been having a pretty bad time, but she did bring about her own punishment after all. She got what she deserved, and I applaud the husband for taking initiative and getting his rampaging wife under control. Soon after some sort of negotiations with Granddad, we moved our cars to be parked on a separate piece of his land. While it was pretty convenient to have our cars parked in the yard, until then, this incident helped decide to move them a little further away. Now we have a splendid wall surrounding our yard, and frankly, I really don't understand why we didn't just do it sooner. Granddad also made some adjustments to the yard itself, and it became a lot more safe for the kids to play. A while thereafter, Grandpa told me that even with her husband's parents keeping an eye on her, that woman still got into a lot of trouble, multiple times. This led her husband to actually slam the divorce documents onto the table. And after everything was over and done, she was thrown out of the house, with almost nothing left. To be honest with you, I'm not surprised at all.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.